Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Tanzu Tuesdays. And as usual, which is still so freaking nice, I have co-hosts Whitney and Lee along with me instead of the many months where it was just you all dealing with, oh wait, me. So yeah, hi you two.
Hello.
Yeah, I don't even know what my weeks are like without the show now, right?
I know, right? It's a compass. It's the North Star.
It guides me. I wake up on Sunday and how many days until Tuesday afternoon?
Exactly.
And then it's like, okay, so at least the easy math now is, okay, how long until the next Tanzu Tuesdays?
Yeah, and you throw the daylight savings boomerang, right?
Yeah. Is it
How
gonna
much time
still?
are we changing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we on an
I
Indian
just want
reservation?
that daylight savings
Because if-
thing to stop. Like, I just want to go back to the time right before we changed it because I kind of like, having some sun after the end of the workday.
I'm cool, you know.
At 5:30 here, it's pretty rough. Yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone likes it. I've not heard one person. And I still haven't changed my clocks. What kind of overachievers have changed their clocks already? I don't know. Yeah, it's good. You should. I think I'm an underachiever.
It was driving me nuts. I couldn't do it.
I just keep earning that extra hour over and over again. I'm like, yes, extra hour just 100 times a day.
I just want to do, why is Arizona special? Like, they don't have the time change. I just want that.
That's maybe the only redeeming quality I've ever heard about Arizona.
Unless you're on the Indian reservation.
Oh yes.
There they respect you.
Arizona.
Even in Arizona.
I'm sure
Can't
Arizona.
win.
I just haven't heard about it yet. Shall we introduce
Yeah,
our guest?
Yeah.
Oh, we have some cool guests
Like I was
today.
telling you all, this is especially cool for me because the topic that it's going to be talked about today is the first thing that I interacted with at all when I started at VMware, which feels long and short ago, even though it was like during the pandemic in March 2020. So
that was a long time ago.
I know.
But a very short while ago. Yeah, totally understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Did the world go on lockdown before or after your first day of work at a new company? Before?
Yeah.
Before.
I was supposed to go start it for a week, go to KubeCon EU, go on a week of vacation in Europe, and then just back to work, and it was awesome. And then it was like, nope, you're not doing any of that stuff. Enjoy your time working from home. And you know that lovely office that you're gonna have on the 41st floor of Columbia Tower with a window view? That's never going to happen. Sucks.
You're recreating it with your wallpaper. I feel like I'm on the 41st floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It does. It seems like you're just. It's remarkably unwindy today. Your audio.
For now, great. The only way to get to the top of the Space Needle is paying buckets of money because before you could go get lunch there, which is expensive but not expensive compared to now it's a cocktail bar. So it's a lot of it's at least $100 a person.
At
least $100 a person.
Oh dang.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
this is why I don't drink cocktails.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some cool guests joining us today, right?
Yes. Tiffany, I'll introduce Miguel. Miguel, come on down. You're the next
on down.
Hello, Miguel.
Hi.
Could be the audience clapping, kind of rhythmically.
Obviously, yeah. I'm here. They need to clap. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for coming and being here from Spain. I know it's nighttime for you, so I appreciate
dinner time. It's dinner time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I feel slightly better. At least I moved this Tanzu Tuesdays up by an hour from what it used to be, so that otherwise it'd be an hour later for everyone.
Good job. Improving all the time, iterating, improving. And then we have another Antonio, come on down. You're the next contestant.
They're just wait, okay, when are we gonna be called yet? It's my turn. They're still talking. Is it now? No, when can I turn this on?
Sorry, we kept you off screen for too long, but welcome. Where are you visiting? Where are you here from?
Yeah, I'm also from Spain, dinner time. Very good moment to start this. Really
9
happy
o'clock
to.
is if 9's dinner, when is bedtime?
Yeah, 9's
At midnight, 1 a.m.
Midnight.
Yeah. Is that
And then wake up
just for
time?
y'all personally, or is that culturally how people tend to do it?
Cultural.
Everything happens 2 hours later here. We cannot
Okay.
push everything 2 hours back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean you wake up at like 10?
No.
No.
Yeah.
7, 8.
I don't want to get into the whole siesta and nap thing because that doesn't exist either.
Right. I'm jealous that you can take naps.
No,
think
I don't know how to
that's,
nap.
that's
Don't talk about it. I think like with working from home, I think the siesta is like a natural biorhythm. And I think that working from home, I know I've picked it up. I start work early and I end work normal time, but then I take a break in the middle of the day and I feel way more productive. Like my brain is fresh instead of, yeah, I think y'all are doing it right. I endorse.
My body doesn't even know how to sleep at night, let alone during the day. So
It's not for you though.
no naps for me.
No. But I do go to bed at like 9 p.m. and wake up at 5 a.m. generally. That's how I like to roll.
I remember when I was talking with my friends, Ilya and Stefan, like back in 2017, we were staying in this flat in Copenhagen for DockerCon, and we were having this conversation about how things cost different amounts, different places relative to, the amount of income that you can make and that kind of thing, right? People don't buy new cars here. This is how much milk is at the market, which, this is how much fruit and stuff is, and this is how much you might pay for rent. And like, we just take so many things for granted. Like I just assume so many things about how life should be structured, right? And like when dinner should be, but they don't have to be that way.
Oh yeah, and they will not be. I have a 1.5-year-old and I don't sleep and I don't eat. So
Because they haven't gotten used to other people's assumptions yet. Right? You got to give them a couple years.
I hope so.
You're like bedtime, dinner time. Those things just don't exist for me at all.
Pretty much. I eat the leftovers from my son. That's
At what age do you think you start pondering the concept of time?
That's very profound. I can think of time now.
I would guess once formalized education is in the picture, then you have to be at a place by a certain time. Even as a child, you probably can understand that.
I guess so, huh? But before you need to be somewhere, right? Then I guess it's like your parents are like, hey, it's time to brush your teeth. Or, it's breakfast. But there must be some time before that where you could care less what time of day it is. You just you're hungry.
Yeah.
Huh.
When I had my son, it was long enough ago that not everything was digital. So we actually had like clocks around and digital ones, like digitized ones. And to help set expectations for him and to help him feel like he had a sense of control, I might be like, okay, Peyton, when the clock says this, that means it's time for this next activity. And then he could watch the clock and then understand. And then it changed and then he was ready, as opposed to me trying to move him on immediately.
How old was he?
He could read his numbers by the time he was 1, actually 2. So
Nice.
Somewhere, just all the little ways you can give them control. One other thing I loved about that I would do again if I had another child, which I never will, but kids can understand what they need way before their vocal cords and their mouths work in a way that they can express it. So if you teach them signs for just basic things like toilets or water, or milk, then they can, you can avoid a lot of crying that way just because they can communicate those base needs. Yeah, but you're not, you already know that tip.
We missed it. I mean, I knew that I needed to do it, but I didn't manage to do it. That's a lot of work, basically.
Yeah. But just
I started learning some sign language, but didn't get very far with it.
Yeah. And then you can give the illusion of control, and you can do this with fellow adults, is like when it would be time for him to get clean, it'd be like, would you like to take a shower or a bath now? And so he feels like he has choice, but then really he's getting clean either way. So yeah, I'm making myself out to be a sociopath, but these are just like good.
Yeah, you're manipulating. Now I know how this works.
Yeah.
Could be like, so will you be starting your presentation with a demo or slides?
Exactly.
A demo?
Oh, goodness.
Can I brush my teeth instead?
No.
Pete Wall, welcome to the chat. He
Yeah.
says, Tanzu parenting chat. I love it. Another person wants to know if it's live, and yeah, we're live. What's up? Also, hey to Scott Rosenberg, Sweet Killer 9. Welcome back.
Yep.
Got a good vibe going here.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be talking today a little bit about the APIs and controllers, right, Miguel?
Yep.
Or is a little bit not accurate?
No, I mean, we're going to touch on those two things for sure. In the context of Kubeapps, though. But yeah.
Kubeapps. And for anyone who's not aware, what is Kubeapps?
So, I mean, that's part of the presentation. Do you want me to start, like, starting with, go ahead?
No, I guess we're just bantering, sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just giving people some context because they're rolling in through here.
Got it.
It's okay.
I
I'm
guess we
getting
have
made
an
fun of
abstract.
for my septum ring.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I
Anyone
suppose
want to let
whenever you're
Tiffany
different,
know
you
there's a
can be made fun
booger
of.
hanging out from her nose? Yes, it's a lovely booger. Thank you very much.
It's a decorative booger. Thank you very much.
It's intentional.
A lot of care and choice and actual pain went into that booger.
Yep.
Cool.
So Shell, on that note, I think it does feel like a good time to transition into your presentation if y'all are ready. You feel good about it? All right.
We got a thumbs up. We have some nods. Very casual.
Wait, my booger is going away.
Oh. Sayonara.
We should give it a name, Tiffany and her sidekick there. All right, well, hand it off.
Tinier Tiffany? I don't know.
Hello. I hope that I'm doing this right. I'm not very used to streaming. So here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Spain, so it's dinner time. Let's get going. Today we're going to be talking about how Kubeapps is evolving to support different Kubernetes packages in a way that it's based on a pluggable architecture that we're going to do a deep dive during this session. And this is the agenda that we hope to go through in like an hour. To be fair, we haven't tried it, so it might be 2 hours. I don't think so. I think around an hour or so. Hopefully, if you have any questions, please ask them during the presentation. That's fine. So we have the context. And we're gonna start with the introduction to Kubeapps. That's what lead to your question. We're gonna go in detail on what's Kubeapps, to touch base on what it is, what it does, and we're gonna do it by doing a demo and where we're gonna install it. We're gonna do an overview of the different features that it has. Then we're gonna get into the architecture of what Kubeapps is today-ish, in the sense that the architecture is evolving as we speak, and how it's gonna look like soon. We're gonna do a deep dive of how that new architecture, and that's kind of like the important part of this talk, how it looks like, and we're gonna demo it. But before we start, a quick presentation. My name is Miguel. I'm in Spain. My connection with this project is that I was part of the founder team of Kubeapps in 2018, more or less. And I also worked with the Helm community during the release of Helm v2. I am currently working on focus on other kind of projects like software supply chain. And that's why I have here the real deal, which is Antonio. Antonio, do you want to introduce yourself? We cannot hear you, Antonio. You're on mute.
Always happen. No, I was gonna say that yeah, I joined the project just 1 year ago, I think. Previously, I was working at the University of Seville, where I was lecturing and researching while pursuing my PhD. So I hope to get it finished in 2 weeks now. Let's see how it goes. And yeah, more or less that's all. I love APIs or related to SLAs, APIs, and all this stuff. And really happy to be working on this open source or project that is Kubeapps. That's all.
Awesome. He's going to be taking the hard questions. So, introduction to Kubeapps. What's Kubeapps? Kubeapps is it's a web UI for deploying and managing applications on Kubernetes. What that basically means is that there is a web user interface that you deploy in your Kubernetes cluster and allows you to browse, deploy, and manage applications. In this case, what you're seeing here are Helm charts. Kubeapps is an open source project. It's a fairly popular project and quite active. It has contributors from outside of VMware, and it predates. It started in 2000. Sorry, the history about the project. In 2017, we were working with the Helm community to build an UI to browse Helm charts, and that project was called Monocular. That project then was used as a backend, for example, for the Helm Hub and Kubeapps Hub and other projects out there. But we also realized at Bitnami that there was a gap. There was a gap on implementing or offering a way to deploy applications, because the other one was about browsing Helm charts and discovery. It wasn't about managing applications. So we decided to work and open source this other project, and this was the inception of the Kubeapps project. And Kubeapps can be installed 3 different ways. The first one is through a Helm chart. We are also working on a Carvel package, and it's currently under development, where you can use Tanzu Community Edition, CLI, or CAP controller to install Kubeapps. And we also have a set of makefile targets for development. Installing it as a Helm chart, it's the recommended way that we have today. It's the way that, because the main reason is because we test the Helm chart, we run different scenarios, and we make sure that Kubeapps distributed through a Helm chart works. And it is as simple as adding the Bitnami repository, Bitnami Tanzu repository, and doing Helm install. The second way is, as I mentioned before, is if you are a subscriber of Tanzu Advanced, suite of products, you will get access to a repository that contains Kubeapps Carvel package. And this is currently in alpha, where we're working, still work in progress. And the third one is for development. If you are interested in contributing, we have a set of rules, a set of environments already predefined that you can run locally. So for example, you can execute, you can run make cluster kind, and what that will do is leverage kind Kubernetes in Docker to deploy a cluster. If you want to have a multi-cluster setup, because you want to try the multi-cluster communication in Kubernetes, you can use make multi-cluster kind. And when you do that, you will get a cluster with the required RBAC configuration, as well as when you can use make deploy dev to install Kubeapps alongside Dex, which is an identity provider for OpenID Connect, for single sign-on, install OpenLDAP, and all of that can be used with those 2 or 3 commands. And this is the method that I'm going to do for the demo. And the main reason when I use development is because the second part of the demo is going to be about modifying this code to enable plugins, and it's going to get a little more technical. Okay, if there is any question, please jump in.
Yeah, Whitney has a question, is how is a Kubeapp different from an operator? Oh, I asked Whitney's question for her, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, so Kubeapps is a way to deploy workloads. One of those workloads, in fact, could be a workload, an application could be packaged as different formats. One of those formats can be a Helm chart, but they can also be an operator. So at the end of the day, what Kubeapps does is it offers a launcher for applications, and an operator is a kind of application. Did I answer your question?
That did. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. So what are we going to do? What we're going to be doing in this demo is installing Kubeapps. Again, I'm going to be using locally. If you were going to use this in production, I would recommend that you just use a Helm chart. But because here in Tanzu Tuesday, let's make it difficult. Let's make sure that it doesn't work. Let's do it. So the first thing that you want to do is run cluster kind, which will deploy a cluster. Obviously, it says nothing to do here because I don't want this demo to break from the first command. So I've done it before. But we actually look at what cluster kind does. By the way, is this font all right, or is this too small? I can make it bigger.
I think it's a little too small. Yeah, that's better.
Better? Good?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Perfect. So what the cluster kind will do is to use Kubernetes in Docker to create a cluster, and then it will install the RBAC configuration required by Kubeapps. Kubeapps has two different roles, an operator and a user. This will set it up for you. It will also deploy Nginx ingress in that cluster configured for your local host, so you have it ready for development. And that's pretty much it. So if I export the kubeconfig, I can see that I have different pods, and these are the namespaces. I have Nginx ingress and the Kubeapps namespace. So the next thing that we need to do is to deploy Kubeapps itself. So to do that, you execute make deploy Kubeapps, deploy dev. And what does deploy dev does? So deploy dev is a make file target that first deploy dependencies, which are Dex as identity provider, open LDAP, and it generates a self-signed certificate. And to end up, it basically installs Kubeapps dev. It installs the Kubeapps Helm chart with some values that we have here that I haven't modified. So these are some values that we're going to be modifying later on. Okay, so let's see. The output says that now we should be able to log in with this username and password. We have two roles, as I mentioned before. The Kubeapps operator, which is going to be allowed to configure the instance of Kubeapps, and the Kubeapps user, which is the one that consumes applications. So let's take a look. If I go to localhost for now, I get my instance of Kubeapps configured with single sign-on via the IDC provider. Now we're going to be scared by the self-signed certificate. Don't worry about that. Again, this is development. And we got redirected to Dex. Dex is configured with static credential, but also open LDAP. And we're going to use the Kubeapps operator credential that is set up for development. This one is password, and we grant access. So here we have an instance of Kubeapps running a Kubernetes cluster in development. And the main sections that we have here are applications, which are the applications that are installed in the cluster, catalog, the list of applications that you can install, and then the context. The context is very similar to, let's say, the Kubernetes context. Is the definition of, it's a relationship between a cluster and a namespace. So here you can select different namespaces to deploy applications in different namespaces. So I don't have any applications right now in the default namespace, but if I click on show applications in all namespaces, you will see that we have 3 apps, which in fact are the Kubeapps instance that we are seeing here, Dex and LDAP. They are in different namespaces. If we go to catalog, here you will see a list of apps from different categories, from databases to e-commerce to wikis. And this comes from the Tanzu Bitnami open source library of applications. So for example, if we want to deploy one of these, you will choose, for example, Redis. When you click on Redis, you will see the README file that has been rendered, where you have instructions, you have different versions. So in this case, we want to actually choose on purpose a previous version of the app. And when you click deploy, something that you will notice, this is the deployment form. So if you're familiar with Helm charts, you will know that the way that you configure a Helm chart is through their values.yaml file. So we offer an editor where you can modify every single value. But another interesting thing about Kubeapps is that semantically can interpret a schema that some of the Helm charts have. It's a JSON schema to highlight some of the options that we think are relevant for the users. This is a way to simplify the user experience for deployment. So in this case, we'll say my app, we're going to choose standalone deployment. We're going to set password 1, 2, 3. And that's it. I'm going to click deploy. And what we see next is the information about the application.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Will you zoom in on your browser so it's
Of course.
a bigger? Thank you. Yeah,
Better?
great. Thanks. Yep. Mhm.
Maybe this way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you, Miguel.
Awesome. No, thank you. So if we go to applications now, you will see that we have my app, which is the one that I just deployed. And in here, you will see the README and also different resources that these applications have. It has a Helm chart that has it has a stateful set, it has a secret. You can actually take the password that I just typed. You have the services. So if you click application, again, you see it, it's deployed, but you get here some kind of like a warning or notification saying, hey, there is a new version. And why is this? This is because I deployed that old version on purpose to showcase the upgrade functionality. So it's telling you there is a new version that you update now. Something that's very cool, another good feature about Kubeapps is you can click on changes and you will see what has changed between the application that you deployed and the new one. So in this case, we are upgrading different new images, basically. So we go deploy, this will upgrade. And hopefully the demo is going great so far. I'm not used to it. So let's see. So there we go. It's deployed and it's up to date. So this is about deploying an app. But what if I just show you the catalog of applications that these are the applications that can bundle with Kubeapps. But what if you want to add your own feed, your own content catalog, your own service catalog of Helm charts? So you can do it. You can go here on the right to the administration section and click on app repositories. And in here, you can see the Bitnami chart repo, which is the one that we have been browsing before, but you can add a new one. And adding a new repository means you can add a Helm repository, a traditional one. You can do a OCR registry repository, which is the evolution of how Helm charts have been distributed. You can define different authentication mechanisms that these repositories have. Another very interesting feature from Kubeapps is that you can associate Docker registry credentials to the applications that are deployed that comes from this registry. What I mean with this is if you have a repository that has the reference to private images, you can set here the credentials and they will be injected automatically as image pool secrets. So your application will work. So what we're going to do here is, for example, setting a new registry for the marketplace. So the VMware Marketplace is another project that we work on as part of our pillar. And in there, we have hundreds of thousands of Helm charts. So you can subscribe to it. And actually, we're working on a service catalog capabilities that you will be able to put your private registry in Kubeapps and consume only the applications that you have curated. So by doing this, I do a start repo. And here we go. We have a marketplace repository, which is added to your namespace. Right? Something that I haven't mentioned is you can have repositories that are global, meaning share across namespaces to all your users, or namespaces that are scoped inside a namespace. In this case, I did a scoped one. So now we go to the catalog. You can filter by either Bitnami or the marketplace repository, and these are the applications. Yeah, so that's pretty much it in terms of the first demo. You have seen how you can deploy, you can browse applications, you can deploy applications, and you can upgrade them. It's very easy. It's very easy to do. All right. So now, just a summary of features. Kubeapps currently supports Helm P3. We need to your question about the difference between Kubeapps and operators. We actually have support for some kind of support for operators. We can add repositories that are private and reference private Docker images. I already showed that. The upgrade experience is seeing the changes, deployment forms, multi-class support, OpenID Connect or single sign-on. It's already part of Kubeapps. We even have support for Pinniped to enable the single sign-on experience in clusters that are not even like OIDC ready. And we test Kubeapps in all major Kubernetes platforms. So this is a Kubernetes agnostic project, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah. Perhaps may I interrupt you? We just give you some details on the Pinniped thing, because I think it's a really cool feature we also are developing. I mean, in general, no, because what it really means is that in some cases that you, for instance, you are not able, because usually if you wanted to use this OIDC that is built in the Kubernetes, I mean, just like a way to log into Kubernetes clusters, sometimes you don't have access to the Kubernetes API server in which you can set the OIDC flags. So, for instance, if I want to go to set my clusters to authenticate with Google, I have to set some OIDC flags so that the cluster understand that it's going to be authenticated with the Google provider. But sometimes you don't have access to that kind of flags because perhaps you are using a managed cluster like the Amazon service, or even the Tanzu Kubernetes cluster, TKG, or that kind of stuff. No? So in VMware, it's also an interesting project that is Pinniped that was aimed at solving that kind of problems. And now all we have to do is just to say, okay, we are registering our OIDC provider into Pinniped instead of in the cluster or modifying any flag. So just registering or our OIDC provider into Pinniped, we can just delegate this authentication to this project, let's say, so that what we have done in Kubeapps is to build a proxy, to a Pinniped proxy indeed, to authenticate all the requests and proxy all the authenticated requests. So that's why we have this support to all major Kubernetes platform, including AKAs and other kind of managed cluster. Just to mention, because it was a kind of recent half a year or something like that feature. So worth mentioning.
I'm actually super interested in this because I'm learning a lot about Pinniped right now. And to support Pinniped from Kubeapps, do you have to have like the Pinniped CLI available for the kube configs to execute, I guess, so that it can manage the session?
No. Indeed, we are using the Pinipet concierge. So we are just communicating with the concierge, and just using that. I don't know if I think that they are now working on something related to our scenario. I mean, this kind of proxy or something like that. But we're checking with them.
Yeah, because the concierge will either proxy your connection to the impersonation proxy, or you will just get a temporary X509 cert, right? Excellent.
Exactly.
That's so cool. But yeah, a really neat way to get a federated identity from another provider available as a principal in Kubernetes, but without modifying the API server at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, so we have documented here our colleague, Michael Nelson, who couldn't be here.
Will you zoom in, please? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you can find in the Kubeapps repository under the docs directly some instructions on how to use it. So maybe you can, by seeing how we do it, we can get some inspiration. I also believe that Michael, who again is not here, he has been talking to the Pinipet team about the Pinipet proxy and the evolution that may be kind of like a proxy that could be part of the core. And maybe it's not this one, it might be actually part of another one. So that it's interesting. It's a very interesting space. I don't know enough, but I'm happy to connect you.
Yeah, I'll take a look at this guy. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Antonio. Okay. So I'm pretty sure that you are all saying, boring. I've seen this Kubeapps thing many times. So what's new? What's new? Oh, great. Let's get into it. This is the interesting part. So if we look into Kubeapps yesterday, again, this is what I said today-ish, yesterday and tomorrow. The UI that showed when we were listing applications, so we were listing the applications that are installed. Actually, the way that it work more or less, or some parts used to work, is Kubeapps UI. If you need to get available Helm charts, it will call a service, the asset service, for example, that then it will call a data storage to get that information. If we need to get information about the Kubeapps, the list, the applications that are installed, we will need to call the Kubeapps Helm agent. If we need to deploy or upgrade, again, Kubeapps Helm agent. And if you remember when I showed Redis had showed the stateful sets and the secrets. That information is retrieved by the UI talking to the Kubernetes API server. So there are a different questions and thoughts that the community had about this architecture. And again, this has reasons. This has historical reasons why it is like this. And the first question is, hey, the implementation is very coupled to the Helm tooling. Basically, we are using, you're not using the Helm CLI, but it's pretty much if you want to deploy Helm, you deploy through Helm tooling. You don't deploy through Flux, for example, or even Cap Controller. So how to add other formats and backends? That's the first one. By using what we have today, basically the installation is imperative end to end. It gets a request from the UI, and then it gets all the way to the application install. And the third one is, hey, don't expose the Kubernetes API to the front end. And to be clear, this doesn't mean that we expose the Kubernetes API to anybody without authentication. That's not how it works. How it works is we expose it through a proxy, but then you need to still authenticate using your Kubernetes credentials. And in fact, if you use the recommended production way, which is with OpenID Connect, which is the step that I showed you before, you will have a proxy, OAuth2 proxy that will wrap the Kubernetes API server. So it's not literally exposed. The issue here is that there is no reason why the Kubernetes API server, the UI should be talking to the Kubernetes API server. There is no reason, technical reason for it, apart of some historical choices. So 3 main asks that we have been getting in the Kubeapps project. The first one, hey, you need to support multiple packaging formats. And the way that we see this is we need to make sure that we can do it in an extensible way. We need to support, we need to make sure that we need to add Flux, we need to add Carvel. How do we do it without being tightly coupled to what we have today? Then we need to make sure that we enable declarative backends. So that way we can interoperate with other ways of deploying applications. And of course, we want to remove how coupled the UI is from the Kubernetes API server. Those are the three main topics that has made us think that we need to change the architecture, and we're going to get into detail there. So getting details a little bit in every one of those issues or work streams, Helm is very coupled to Kubernetes is very coupled to Helm. So what we are going to be doing is we are building this new layer called Kubeapps API service that will contain different plugins, different backends. So we have the current Helm, we call it Helm Direct, but you also have Flux, you also have Carvel, and what we're going to be showing today is how we're building this from a technical point of view to be able to extend the Kubeapps API service if you desire to. The second ask, hey, let's make it declarative. We need declarative backend. So currently we have the Kubeapps API service talking to Helm with this Helm Direct plugin. So the way that we can do this is by, again, enabling writing two new plugins, Flux and Carvel, which both of them leverage declarative APIs, meaning custom resources in the cluster. By doing that, we basically allow other avenues to interoperate. So you can have your Git repo that actually injects a package install from Carvel, and then it will appear in Kubeapps, or the other way around. So at the end of the day, Kubeapps, what they will be doing is talking to this plugin, and this plugin talking to the single source of truth, which will be these custom resources. And the third ask is going to be, let's stop talking about stop talking to the Kubernetes API server directly from the UI. And the way that we are doing that is through another core API extension, the Kubeapps API services. We call it Kubernetes resources for package. Obviously, the naming is hard. And this is the one that's going to make sure that you only get access to the resources that are associated with the installed application. And obviously, we check that you as a user in Kubernetes have access to as well. So at the end of the day, what these three main asks converge in the fact that Kubeapps tomorrow, again, this is work in progress. I'm going to show you a working demo of some of these parts. It's going to be multi-package. It's not going to be Helm centric anymore. I mean, that's the nice thing about being called Kubeapps. It's going to be declarative ready, and we're going to make sure that the API's boundaries are well defined. And all of it is being implemented by introducing this Kubeapps API service that we're going to get into detail. Antonio, do you have any thoughts before I move on?
No, not so far. Everything really well explained. So now let's
you're
get into
nice,
details.
Antonio. You're very nice, Antonio. All right. So the Kubeapps API service deep dive. Let's get into details how this works. And so the main goal is to building a pluggable, extensible API service for Kubeapps. And we're going to be touching mainly on the packaging side of things. The packaging side of things means finding an application, deploying an application, that kind of things. Adding a repository, that kind of thing. So three main functional requirements for this new functional system. This service is actually one service. So we want to make sure first is we have one API that is a core single API that's package agnostic, that tries to fit most common needs. We're going to get into details in every one of these, how it looks like. But we also know that there are some plugins, some backends that have their own needs. So we need to make sure that we have a escape hatch not just escape hatch, but a first-class citizen extension path for those plugins. So for example, if Helm has a concept of rollback, maybe Carvel doesn't have it, but we want to, the plugin author wants to support that, why not? So we might actually allow to do that. The second part is we have built this with gRPC in mind, but we don't limit the consumption of it only to gRPC. So you can consume it through gRPC, you can consume it through gRPC web if you have a web interface, or you can do it through JSON, REST. So we try to give you options. And the third part is if you want to add a new plugin, a new backend like Flux or your own backend, it should be as simple as writing a plugin that implements the core interface. And you can find here two different documents. The first one is a very good design document from the Kubeapps team. I recommend that you take a look after this. And the second one is actually the source code of this, what we're going to be showing. Okay. Core per plugin API interfaces. So what did we try to do here? So our experience in Kubeapps, and actually in Bitnami, we have been offering launchpads, so we call that you can also see applications, you can deploy VMs and other form factors. You kind of like realize that there is some minimum common denominator of operations that you can start like exposing. So view available packages. What can you do? What kind of packages do you? What kind of applications can you install? How to install a package? How to update a package? How to see the applications that are installed? How to uninstall it? Obviously, I'm ignoring here things like how to see the versions of that package. That's also part of this. And if you have package-specific capabilities, also offer you a way to add it. So if we actually zoom in into what the Kubeapps API service looks like, we have this core packages API that what it does is to define that view, create, update, kind of like that CRUD operation for installed applications, for available applications, and aggregates them across all the plugins. That's the core packages API. We also have the core plugins API, which is about discovering what plugins are enabled, and future core APIs that we're going to be adding, especially about repositories and the Kubernetes resources. The Kubernetes resources API that I touched on a little bit before. So if you actually now zoom into what a plugin should have, if you want to view available packages, it needs to implement 3 methods. Get available package summaries, which is tell me, it's kind of like the list method of the different applications that we have. Get available package detail, give me the versions. Install a package, view installed packages. And these are the methods that every plugin will need to install to meet the interface, to make sure that actually complies with the interface, the core packages interface. And of course, you can add your own plugin-specific API, as I said, like in the case of the Helm client that we have, implements a rollback mechanism, but we also know that that's not a common, or that might not be, it should be part of the core API. Okay, so how does it look like? If you are a user or you are a Kubeapps, the Kubeapps UI, the first thing that you will do is, hey, I want to get all the applications available for me. And the UI will call get available package summaries. And the Kubeapps API service will make sure to go through every single one of the plugins that implement that method and call every one of those. So the result of this call will be the aggregation of those packages. That means that, again, you're going to get the Helm charts, you're going to get the Carvel packages, you're going to get the Flux Helm chart or Helm charts through a Flux backend, all of that through a common package agnostic API, and everything automatically aggregated by the core packages API. I'm not expecting anybody to read this, but this just represents somehow kind of the data model that we're creating around to define this API, this generic API. So for example, if we go to get available package summaries, again, that's tell me the applications that are available to install. So it looks more or less something like this. This is protocol buffers. That's what we use as source of truth for our API. And what we have here is, again, the method, get available packages, so package summaries, and we have a request, and then we have a response. The request has the context, how you want to filter, and the paginations, and the response will look something like this. So we have pagination built in, obviously, and different categories. Then available package summary will give you the reference to a package, and the package should have, this also includes the package version and application version, which is something that Helm introduced back then. The application version can be like Redis 5.3, and the package version, which is the Helm chart version, might be different. So that's why we support this. Then available package reference will have the identifier, then we'll have a context, and the context has where it comes from, in which cluster and which namespace, but also where which one is the provider of this package. It doesn't come from basically which plugin it is. It's a Helm chart. It's a Helm chart from which plugin. So that's everything about having that core API that we have defined. And now we're going to get into how we implemented that API. So we made sure we wanted to have an API that basically we wanted to have a gRPC API, but also gRPC web and REST. And we have done it by multiplexing the same port via the content type. And that way, if the content type includes gRPC web, it will go through the gRPC web backend and gRPC or a gRPC gateway in otherwise. And the question might be, but why? Why are you supporting 3 different API types? And yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, supporting adding new code, then you need to support it. So the thing is that interacting with packages is no longer a Kubeapps UI exclusive thing. Right now we have, as I said, the Kubeapps UI, the whole installing an application in Kubeapps is very coupled, end to end. The packaging, because the UI talks to the API server, everything things are coupled. But we want to make sure that Kubeapps or this part of Kubeapps is going to be API first. And interacting with this new piece, the Kubeapps API service, is not a UI thing anymore. And to do that, we want to give you options. So you can have your gRPC, you want to have your own Go code or Java code talking to this service using gRPC, go for it. You have a web UI in React, like the one that we have, with TypeScript, and you want to use the gRPC web stubs, client stubs, go for it. But otherwise, you can use the REST API. It's up to the choice of the client, the consumer of this service. So, and the reason why, another reason why we're doing this is because we have, based on our experience with the project, again, it's an open source project that has been there for multiple years. We have seen actually people customizing the Kubeapps UI for their own needs. It can be because they want to have their own dashboard internally, because they want to productize it. I don't know, whatever it is. But truth is that it has been very difficult for them to do it. And by doing this, they will be able to actually create UIs that are way more fit to their needs and still leverage a service that will remove all the complexity of dealing with packaging format details and all that kind of stuff, which is the boring stuff at the end of the day. What you want to offer is the end-to-end experience. So this is a big deal for those kind of users. All right, last one. Support for brand new packaging format, writing a plugin. So what does it mean to add a plugin? So what we do is we use the code base for this new service is Golang. That's the language that we use. And most of the Kubeapps backend is written off. And to enable this plugin mechanism, we use the plugin package from Go, which I believe is available from Go 1.8 or something like that. It's quite mature, I would say. And what you need to do, let's say that we're building a new plugin called Acme plugin. You will need to define two things, right? Two things. You will need to write the API definition, again, using protocol buffers here at the bottom. And you will need to obviously do the implementation in a main.go or however you want to expand your implementation. And then if you also add we use buff build for kind of defining the different generation patterns that we want to have and different outputs. By adding the buff-gen and doing buff generate, we generate a very interesting output, including a part of the Go code, Go gRPC code, and gRPC gateway code, which is quite standard. We also do the Open API documentation. I believe that we were discussing this Lee before, and also the TypeScript client code for gRPC web. So we have the source of truth with the Defend API with the Acme proto, with protocol buffers, and generate the different bindings for different, including documentation for the REST API. And to finish, once you have all the Go code and the documentation and the different client steps, what you do is you need to build your plugin. And the way that you do it with the plugin package is you do go build with build mode plugin. And when you do that, the output of it will be a share object file, a .so file, that can be loaded and interpreted at runtime by, in this case, the Kubeapps API service. So the way it works is first you add the acme.so file to the path via flag, plugin dir. The same way that we have plugin dir flags, you will do plugin dir acme. And for each plugin, the Kubeapps API service will open the plugin, will show what that means, and then it will register the gRPC service that each plugin has defined. Only if it's it will do that, and then it will add it to the aggregation APIs if it satisfies the core interface, the core packaging interface. So how does a plugin look like? A plugin needs to have these methods basically. A part of implementing the core API methods, but a main.go file for a plugin needs to have information about itself, needs to have an identification. So in this case, acme.packages version, and a method called getPluginDetail, and then two main functions, register with gRPC server and register HTTP handler. What these functions receive, they will receive the gRPC register, and then the register this code will register the new gRPC service into that register. So at the end of the day, what we're doing is appending to the main gRPC gateway in the main application. And I know this is a lot of code and things, but what I want to highlight here, just a couple of things. This is it's an oversimplification of what the code of the client, let's say the Kubeapps API service, the one that calls the plugins, what they do. What they do is they go for every plugin and checks that there is a function called register with gRPC service. If you see here, the plugin needs to implement this method. So we check that it has it. If it has it, we cast it. We make sure that it's actually the method that we care. We call it. And then the last thing that we do is we check if that service implements the core API, the core packages API. If it does, we register it. That's pretty much it. So as you can see, it goes through the different plugins, but you cannot see the loop here, but it takes a plugin, opens it, checks that it implements the method that we want, and checks that if it implements the core interface. If it does, it gets registered to be able to get to be part of the aggregation at the end of the day. Any questions, Antonio? Any comments before I move to the second part of the demo?
No, not so far. I was just posting some links and in the chat, but everything clear.
Okay. That can be, there are no questions. That may mean two things. Either I'm very good at explaining, and this is very confusing already, and usually it's the latter. But let's do this.
I think you've been good at explaining.
Awesome.
Fine.
All right. So second part of the demo, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna show you that that service. I'm gonna show you that service. We're gonna play a little bit with it, and we are going to enable a plugin or some plugins. Specifically, we're gonna enable the cap controller, the Carvel plugin that it's in progress. We're working on it.
Will you zoom in?
Of course.
Thank you. Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, so where can you find this new service? So I have Kubeapps. Kubeapps here, this is the source code of the project, the same one that you can find in GitHub. And if you go to command, you will find Kubeapps APIs. This is the source code of this service that we have been talking about like for 30 minutes already. And what's interesting about this structure, I know this is very small, but honestly, I don't know how to make this site bigger with this fancy editor. But I'm not going to use this site that much, so I promise. Anyways, what you can see, what I'm going to show you here is we have 3 plugins. One of them is in production, which is the Helm one. The Flux, V2, and the cap control plugins are work in progress. And so we have the implementations of the plugins here. So you can see you have the main file. I'm going to make it bigger. This one. You have the main file for, what is this? Flux. The main file for Flux, and it has the plugin detail, which is this identification, this ID. It implements the get plugin detail, as I said before. And it also implements the register with gRPC server and register with HTTP handler from endpoint. Those are basically the three functions that needs to implement. Then the other thing, obviously, that needs to implement are the different methods that are defined in the core API. In this case, get package repositories, get available package summaries. These are the same ones that I showed before. So we have these different plugins implementing that API. Again, the Helm plugin is complete and it's production. The other two are still work in progress, but you can see the source code right now in the repo. And the second part is in the Kubeapps API. The second part is how we have the core packages proto definition. This is the definition of the API for the main core aggregated API. And you can see here we have a package service, get available package summaries. These are some annotations that we use for gRPC gateway. And also I believe that they're used for the OpenAPI generation as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Antonio. So we have here the core API defined. And the different plugins implements. If we go to the plugins, again, we have the Helm implementing its own API. So if you remember that slide deck, that slide before, every plugin has their own protofile, and they might or might not have a full implementation of the core packaging API. And they also have the implementation itself, which is in this plugins directory. Okay. So let's take a look at how this thing looks like. So actually, if you look at, we're going to go to the Kubeapps namespace. This is the instance of Kubeapps that we have. The good news is we actually have this Kubeapps API service already running in production. If you go today and deploy Kubeapps, you will have this new API service, but with Helm only enabled right now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to port forward that service because we're going to start playing with it. We're going to start like executing the API itself. So the first thing that we want to run is we're going to list which are the different services that are attached. So we have, again, 2 core APIs, the packages one and the plugins. If we go and list this API, we get all the methods that are the core API interface: create install package, delete install package. But we also see here the Helm packages API. So if we take a look at this, we will see that it's pretty much the same method. So it implements the core interface, but also it has a custom method called, I'm not sure, rollback? Yes, rollback. Rollback is a custom method. Okay. So let's take a look first to what are the plugins that are enabled. So we're calling now to the core plugins API saying, hey, what are the configure plugins that you have? And as I said, I already spoiled this. We have the Helm plugin enabled. Just for the sake of making sure that so you know that I'm telling you the truth, you can also call the HTTP endpoint instead. This is served by gRPC gateway. So this has the same result. Okay. So now we're going to be playing with get summaries, listing applications and things. But before I do that, I need to just do some small code I need to add here. Basically what this does is create a service account, additional service account to create a token so I can authenticate. And actually the reason for this is if you, actually let me step back very quickly. This is the UI, right? And I said that this API service is already in production. It is, and it is actually being used by the UI. If we inspect the network, reload, you will see that, hey, you're calling, it's very small, I know, I cannot make it bigger. Can I? Please, can I? Yes, more or less. So you can see that we're actually calling the core packages API for get available package summaries. So we're actually, the UI is calling that API already. So what you are seeing is basically that backend working for Helm. And one of the things that it does, it says authentication, but because we have OpenID Connect here, we need to also set up that authentication in my console. That's why I did this detour to explain why I need to do a service account here, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so the UI is using it. I want to actually use the console here, the terminal, to get a more clear, in-depth view of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is to call, what's going on? There we go. So I'm calling, I'm passing the token authentication. I'm calling the Kubeapps core packages, get available package summaries. This is the one that aggregates different plugins, but because we only have Helm, it's going to basically return only Helm charts, right? So what can we see here? So we can see that there is a Zookeeper app with this package version, this app version, that's the latest one, categories, so on and so forth. So if you want to get the versions, you can just call. Apologies for this. This console is not liking the Zoom. So you can call now get available package versions, and I'm saying get available package versions for Zookeeper in the namespace Kubeapps. So you do that and you get the versions. And this is actually what, again, what the UI is doing. If you go here and you go here, something that you're gonna see right away is that it's calling package details and get available package versions. So those APIs are being used. So what are we gonna do next? What are we gonna do next is to enable CAP controller. That's why this stream was called enabling Carvel in Kubeapps. All right, so how do I do this? I need to remember now how I do that. Okay, so the way it works for a user is the Helm chart has a structure in the values.yaml file that defines the different plugins that are enabled. And again, the Helm one is in production, you can use it. The CAP controller one is, and the Flux one are work in progress. So it's not, don't expect them to work for production purposes. I mean. So if we do this, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna redeploy. Let's redeploy. What can go wrong? And the way I did it, let me see if I can kill this console because it's acting weird. Okay, make deploy dev Kubeapps. What this is redeploying. You can see this is terminating one pod, and we are going to now let's take a look at the logs. And what do we have here? These are the logs for the packaging service. And we can see here that it found a Helm plugin that implements the core API register, good. But the interesting part is that now it also found the CAP controller packages that implements the core API as well. And it was registered for aggregation. Awesome. So let's make sure that that's actually true. So if we go here, I think I need to fix the port forward because the pod is another one. Okay, there we go. So what I just did is to call get available plugins, and now we have two plugins. That was expected. We have the Helm one and the CAP controller one. Both of them are registered for aggregation. Now we're gonna call list. I don't know why this terminal is so weird. And what we can see here is that we have, again, the two core APIs that we were expecting. We have the Helm API, but we also have the CAP controller API. So cool. We have now custom APIs, including for the CAP controller one. So now let's actually call the CAP controller custom API. So we're calling plugins, CAP controller packages, CAP controller package service, get available package summaries, and it fails. It fails because of, I mean, it's expected, but why is that? CAP controller is not installed. This obviously relies on not CAP controller, but the custom resource definitions from the Carvel packages API is not present in the cluster. So to do that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna call a very handy make file, make target. Let's call deploy CAP controller. And actually we search for it. So you see, there we go. If you see what deploy CAP controller, the only thing that it does is to deploy the latest version of CAP controller and also add a new test repository. This is a repository bundle. It's a test one. And actually we can see here in the logs that we are installing a new repo called end-to-end repo. Okay, so let's take a look. So if we go to get namespaces, now we should have CAP controller somehow. There we go. If we do, so we have CAP controller running. Good. So now we should be able to see the new CRDs. The new CRDs are, we have the package installs, package repositories, package metadata, and packages. Okay, so let's try. There is no package repository here. That's normal. Oh, I hate you, console. Why do you? Package repositories. Of course, I know what I was thinking. So we have one repository. And now let's take a look at the package. And we have one package that was imported by Cap Controller from the repository. Okay, so now let's try again this API and this API endpoint for Cap Controller. If I do it, there we go. Now the API endpoint managed to find that the custom resource definition, compile it, put it together, compile it in the sense that put it together in the API and expose it. Okay, good. So what is it? That's for the Cap Controller, but you can also do it from the core API, which is, if you remember, is the aggregated. Is the aggregated API. If you do this, you should be able to find now here. You have it here. Now these applications that comes from Carvel come alongside the Helm ones. And the nice thing about it, it's like the UI doesn't need to know anything about it. So actually we reload and now we search for Carvel. There we go. We have Carvel packages listed in the catalog for now by just loading that plugin in the backend. The UI hasn't changed at all. And you can see that here the information of the package and also the different versions that are available. So what else? And the last thing I would like to just mention is if you want to play with this, a part of the gRPC, very messy thing that I showed because my terminal is broken. You can go to this API documentation portal in Kubeapps itself, where we have documented not only the core packages service, but also the Flux, Helm, and Cap Control package service. Again, some of these endpoints are not finished. You will get some not implemented errors, but the definition is already there. All right. So just a couple of things to finish, unless you have any question before I move on. But this is pretty much, we're getting there. Antonio, any comments? I keep calling you out.
No, I mean, everything was perfect. I mean, I didn't expect that.
Hey, you don't trust me.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah, I know. It is past dinner time, to be honest. I'm starting to get grumpy.
We got a comment from Scott Rosenberg that says this is awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. So next steps. Keep working on the finish in this API service, finish the Carvel and Flux plugins. The Flux is implementation is ahead of the Carvel one as of today, but we're going to keep working on finishing both. We need to implement the Kubernetes resources APIs, which is this one that will talk to the Kubernetes API service instead of the UI. That's not done yet. Repositories APIs, again, how do you add API? How do you add repositories? It's still work in progress. We want to evaluate what to do with operator support, if that's going to be a plugin or not, or this is also part of the discussion. Another interesting thing around Carvel, we want to officially distribute Kubeapps as a Carvel package, not only as part of Tanzu Advanced suite, but open source, put that package and put it at the same level that the Helm charts. And we want to do obviously some integration for obviously for me because I work at the marketplace, but to work with the marketplace to make sure that for the new capabilities for service catalog and private content libraries, you can use Kubeapps to leverage those and subscribe to your applications. And links. Again, the second time I mentioned this proposal. This proposal is awesome. It's written mainly by Michael. He couldn't be here. He's awesome, and I recommend everybody to take a look. It's much better than the explanation that I did, and some other links from milestones in the roadmap, and you can get you can talk to us in the community Slack And I believe that's everything. I know. And yeah, this is the Kubeapps team. The Kubeapps team is everybody that has been contributed to the team. We're very happy. We like you. And yeah, thank you very much. This is it's very exciting for the Kubeapps project to be able to evolve with the community and with the new paradigm and Kubernetes. We love it. Okay.
Yeah,
And
understatement.
say hi.
This is very exciting stuff. It's such a huge need in the community right now for us to grow beyond where Helm has taken us. Right, people are bringing different opinions. They're starting to package in new formats, and to see the ecosystem develop to a place where these things can not just coexist, but interoperate. And bring on some of the advantages of different application management paradigms and authoring strategies. This is hugely important. I'm totally going to take the recording of this talk and post it into the cluster add-ons Slack channel in the Kubernetes Slack, because this is the kind of thing that people are often frustrated with. Also, all of the different kinds of artifacts now that we're seeing in Artifact Hub. I'm just very excited for kind of this new evolution in a world where we can actually know what's inside of our clusters. That's kind of the main problem, that the gap that you're filling in from the very beginning, right, Miguel? Right.
Yeah, that's right. When the project started in 2018, only Helm was available. That was actually what an application in Kubernetes actually looked like. Somehow things have changed a lot. And I mean, Kubernetes as a declarative first approach, we needed to fill those two gaps, right? New package formats, new backends, including declarative backends. And we need to do it in the right way. And we think that this new plugging mechanism is going to allow us to do that in a way that also contributing will be easier. So you will be able to come here and write your own plugin, and maybe the friction is going to be lowered. So we're very excited. We're very excited about what's to come to this project, indeed.
Well, thanks so much for a presentation. I think that people, when they come to Twitch, right, they want to see some real stuff. And you really brought it today with the live demos, with a lot of time in the editor, messing around, actually creating some development Kubernetes clusters. And I always appreciate a good live demo myself. It's hard to make things that are reproducible. Right? Here we got Antonio in the chat, like linking to all the make files, which by the way, look beautifully authored. I like a readable make file myself. And, oh, Whitney, you might be on mute. Are you
I am on mute.
Answering with us?
In the chat, we have a comment. Thank you for this awesome Kubeapps session. That's from PP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of love in
Yeah,
the
we
chat.
have quite the audience today.
Yeah.
A couple of cool people in the community coming to hang out and see what's happening with these new APIs.
Awesome. So you should join the bi-weekly community meeting.
Yeah.
Come on.
When is that?
Yes.
When is that, Antonio?
I dropped that on, and we just had daylight savings time change and everything. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. 30 universal time.
It's not dinner time for sure. It's not
exactly.
It says bi-weekly community meetings, Monday, 10:30 a.m. Universal. So
yeah.
Whatever UTC means to you.
It's 12:30 p.m. in their time.
Oh, that's bedtime, right? When we're discussing, that's about bedtime in Spain.
If you want to start,
oh no, that's AM. Is that lunchtime, or is that nap time?
I don't know. I don't know if I should answer. I don't know what to do. I don't want to ruin this whole thing.
Instead of sleepwalking, sleep eating. So you could be napping and eating at the same time. So it could be both.
Sleep eating. This is my new hobby, my post-pandemic hobby.
That's what we do. We are either sleeping, taking a nap, or eating. That's what.
I'm in. I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too.
I'd probably choke knowing my luck.
Mm.
Oh, no. Tiffany always bringing us back to morbid realities.
Yeah, it was so cool seeing how much has like been added and changed since I last was looking at it. And now I'm like looking at like issues and being like, all right, so is this extra small like issue actually an extra small issue? And if so, maybe it's something that I can play around with and try fixing.
Oh, that's cool.
Ooh,
those
then
communities-
I might
inspired
talk to
Tiffany
you
get
too
in there.
sometime.
Yeah.
Well, I've wanted to contribute code to Kubeapps for over a year now, just never really got to it. And I made a goal for myself that I would contribute open source code by the end of the year. So
And now you've just
No
Yeah.
excuses.
audience.
Please.
Yeah.
Come by.
It is recorded. Just saying. I'm sorry.
They're gonna have to change that, like next to last slide, to include your GitHub on it when they talk about the major contributors.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll do that. We'll do that. We put like on the top.
Mm.
At the top. That's
our
important now.
top
Yeah.
contributor, one PR. Tiffany changed one letter in the docs.
It's about quality.
Yeah.
It's not about quantity.
They'll have the next slide, right? It's like the team, and then it's like special thanks to Tiffany Fay for this PR. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I did submit PRs. They do that actually too. I did submit PRs, but for the docs like in March or something, April of last year.
I mean, honestly, those are the most important ones. No, those are the hardest ones. Maintaining
Docs,
documentation
PRs.
up to date. Yeah. I mean, keep them
Yeah,
coming,
actually,
please.
shout out to Whitney right here for how is that going with your first docs
It's
PRs? to
approved. I'm
Kubernetes?
officially a Kubernetes contributor.
You
Just by
no.
but
For
just
real?
by
You got
it's approved. Yeah, I'm in.
excellent.
Or-
Excellent.
yeah.
So is Prow for anyone joining who's not familiar with the Kubernetes CI process, we have a robot called Prow that actuates a bunch of merge queues and stuff. So what's Prow doing with your merge or your pull request? Is it merged?
Oh,
already?
I have no idea. Yeah, it's merged. It's in. If you so
Excellent.
I changed. So I'm relatively new to the whole scene, and I changed a glossary definition to better.
It's actually pertinent to this particular talk as well, right? Because what did you find some inconsistencies about? Like, and I agree, it was so confusing.
The extensions definition was confusing. So I was basically part of learning Kubernetes. I was just going through the glossary, especially in this more public way, just to make sure I understand all the basic terminology of what everyone around me is talking about. And so the extensions glossary definition I found confusing, and then went to the extensions page and figured out how to make it less so, and submitted a pull request. And yeah, my first meaningful contribution to open source. It's not just a link update or a typo fix.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you were going to be modifying more of the glossary. Right? I found your pull request, by the way, and you're totally right. It's merged. I'm popping that in the Twitch chat here. Yeah, for the recording, it's Kubernetes/website pull 30278. You know.
Yeah, I'm doing
Antonio's face expression is so funny because he's just like, okay, don't find something I did and put me on the spot. That's looking
Yeah, thank you.
No, I mean, I was reading your PR. I mean, it's so cute.
Oh yeah, the emoji at the end.
Yeah.
Basically, just be nice to me, please. No, I've been actually going to the SIG docs meetings too, and they've been really kind there. So that's part of going to the meetings and getting to know the actual people behind the pull request. made me feel like way more safe to be able to contribute, and like, yeah. So I don't know, like being someone new, I don't know why you just kind of jump to like, all these people are probably really judging me, but then you like get to know the people and they're just like nice people in the world who, yeah. So It's been a great experience.
Nice, you are good. And I'm just like earlier we were talking about like time changes and all that stuff. And like, I'm looking outside, it's only 1:30, but it looks like it did in the summer at like 5:30. It's just like super gloomy and rainy and dark.
Yeah, we've got some afternoon gloom here in Colorado too. I'm like actually really enjoying the very soft lighting. Normally this time of day I have like the sun just like beaming into my windows. So
Okay.
yeah.
It's important to my mental health to take a long walk every day after work. So I'm finding that I want to wrap up a little earlier. I mean, not this right now, but just in general, just so I can hurry
See you
up.
later. Like I'm done with this. I'm just like, yeah.
Just so I can hurry up and get to the park for my walk, but while there's still daylight. When before I don't really feel a sense of urgency about it. I just meander over to the park when I'm ready.
My spouse Tanya sent me a calendar invite for this evening to go roller skating with our friends, and I'm so excited about it. So.
The calendar invite part is funny. It's not like, especially since y'all live together, like, hey dear, do you want to go roller skating? It's like, no, it's a freaking calendar invite.
Well, I mean, Miguel and Antonio, it's kind of been a running, it's not a mantra or it's something with an M. It's a motif. There's a motif on this show about my like current travel situation, because for all of October, I was in a Toyota Sequoia with Tanya and our dog. And we were traveling down through like the balloon festival and like the lower states into California and through San Diego. And we visited some of our coworkers because we had KubeCon. So we only have like this 2 weeks here back at home. So our social calendar is kind of like packed. So that's the very satisfying to me. Satisfying thing is the calendar invites an important detail. Yeah.
So many friends, hard to fit them all in.
Oh yeah, I know. What am I gonna do?
I don't have that issue.
Yeah.
My calendar is empty.
Especially now that it's raining. Yeah, now that it's raining, I really don't have that issue because I just try to avoid human beings.
Yeah.
I think I was just seeing on Discord, somebody posted a meme because of the Xfinity outages throughout all of San Francisco. And they're like, so what happens to the metaverse when Comcast goes down? Because, it's like, that's my main place to go. Like I was logged in. I'm at the virtual cafe hanging out with the people who, are like hanging out there, floating around with their green hats and stuff, and buying my digital fashion. And
I haven't been paying too close attention to metaverse. Does it exist already, or is it something that's going to exist?
It's something that the formerly known as Facebook. Right?
Yes,
they're
I know
pushing
that.
hard to make it happen.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah,
it doesn't.
It's like not a thing, except that
It's so complicated because there's the metaverse in like Marvel, and then there's the metaverse that's not Marvel, and it's I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like massively multiplayer online experiences now where you can be a person. So you've got AltSpace VR, you have VR chat, you have this thing called Rec Room, which is totally awesome. I think we should all hang out there on stream one time because everyone is a cute cartoon character and you can shoot basketballs very far, and it just flies. It's great. So like that's kind of the metaverse, right? Like if you can shake hands with somebody and like talk to them, like that's pretty weird, but it's very human. Anyway.
Yeah.
I might be too old for that. My son will use that. Poor guy.
Your son is your social calendar. That's your friends. You got one really close friend instead of.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, pretty soon you're gonna have like afternoon with the tots, and then there's like daycare pickup. There are other people there, right?
Wow, so exciting.
Yeah.
All the viruses from the daycare for 4 days. Like, it's
like we're going to the playground. You know, it's they're not as fun as they used to be. But I mean, you know, people are there. So yeah.
You know, instead of having a van and going.
I've got a 505 at, you know, Santa Bar Park. So
I'm going to the metaverse to change the diaper.
His
Go to the metaverse to change a diaper.
Oh no. Unsubscribe and just unfollow.
I'm used to that.
Well, you could have like AR for diaper changing. So instead of it looking super gross, it could be something really funny to make it like a less painful process.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for smell-o-vision. So
yeah, there's like a whole mask involved to get rid of the smell. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would be into that. You know, I could do that.
Why did you go down this rabbit hole? I don't understand. Why are we talking about that? Maybe
that's it.
It's part of the.
I think I'm gonna go to have dinner.
What you don't realize is that we're actually coming out of the rabbit hole, right? We entered Wonderland at the beginning of this stream, and this is just what it feels like to have gravity turn back on.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
All right.
On that note, thanks for
letting people
joining.
go.
I'll probably talk
Take
to you
dinner.
too sometime about contributing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Whenever you
Thanks
you
so
want.
much, friend.
Thank you
This
for
has been
having
an
us.
absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Cheers.
Nice meeting
Bye
you.
to everyone in the
dinner.
chat.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us.